This video tutorial series will be very tense and should be for Blender beginners. I got a request to show the process creating a fish tank, how to create a glass material, how to add water to the tank, and adding some fishes. This creates two main questions for me, which you should ask for yourself before opening Blender. Should the result be a realistic render, or should it be a stylistic low poly prop? Do you want to create a single render or a rendered animation showreel? The decision for this question will change a lot for the working pipeline. I want to create a realistic render image, and I will challenge myself with this topic because I have less experience with rendering and the shade editor, and I need to widen my horizon too. I watched many video tutorials and want to credit those YouTubers which helped me with shaders and water simulation. Thank you very much for your amazing work. This project is mainly about shaders, material and textures. Modeling will take only a very small part of the time and is more or less very easy. I want to classify this project to 6 steps. 1. Modeling. The fish tank, covering, LED lamp, shelf surface and walls. 2. The render settings. Camera, world map, material and shader for glass, light sources. 3. The water. Different ways to simulate water. I will talk about the liquid fluid, water shader and wave modifier. 4. The soil. Different ways to create soil. 5. Decoration part 1. Modeling the heating element and filter. And 6. Decoration part 2. Stones, wood, plants, fishes. The little tiny props which you need for filling your tank. I'm not sure about the last step because this can be very much content for one tutorial. I need to think about this a little bit later. I will take my own aquarium as reference. But let's start with step 1. Okay, this is Blender when we opened it the first time. We have here the introduction window when we can add some prepared workspaces or creating new files with a prepared workspace, and here are my files which I have worked on in the past. But I can just click here and we immediately enter this scene here. We are in 3D space, and with the middle mouse button, this is the very first lesson, with the middle mouse button we can rotate the current view around the center about this 0, 0, 0 position. When we scroll the middle mouse button, then we see here the 3D cursor. This is this little cross here with the circle around it. This is the 3D cursor. Alright. So this is our 3D space, this is our workspace. On the left side we have a tool panel and some menus for working in 3D space. Then we have the main menu on the top bar here. Then we have some visibility and workspace settings, for example to change the current shading or the overlays. Just for information, this is here. And then we have here on the right side the outliner, which is a visualization for all objects within this scene. We can hide and unhide objects here or lock or unlock them. And beside this, we can move this by drag and drop this little line to the top or to the bottom. Then we have here the property shelf. The property shelf is for all adjustments, for all settings you want to adjust. And this is a very important panel. So this is a quick overview for entering Blender for the first time. Just to mention, this is Blender 2.9.1. This is very important to care about your current version of Blender, so because there are different features which are working maybe differently, or to find them in a different position. And this is one thing which is maybe not so good for Blender, because the development is always going on and you always have to stay tuned where your settings are. Alright, so we have here in our folder my reference. This is the fish tank, this is my fish tank, which is currently behind me. And I want to create this one for this rendering or for this video tutorial. And when we just ignore the content or the the plants and the soil and everything like this and the fishes. If we ignore this, then we see just the class tank, this rectangle here. So we see that the tank is just closed with some glass plates, and I want to make it similar like this. There are many tanks with this closed cover, which is black or something like this, and inside this cover is the light, and I want to create this LED lamp or light source which is not lying directly on this glass plate. So I have this glass plate. I just note the measurements and I will start to model now. To create your first 3D object, you have two possibilities. You can go here to the Add button and select Mesh and choose one of those primitives. And in 3D viewport, you press Shift plus A to call up the Add menu. Just for information, I have enabled the shortcuts on the bottom right side, so you can always follow those if I forgot to tell you which shortcut I used. Okay, Shift A, you call up a mesh, and I want to go with a cube. And this cube is usually 2 meter long, 2 meter broad, and 2 meter high. And you see this by clicking on this. And you see the size is actually 2 meter for all directions. And for sure this is a very big water tank or fish tank so far, but this is not a problem at all. The only thing is, what I really want to do is I want to rise the cube to the 0 position, so that is that the cube is directly standing on the grid and not within the grid. And I need to adjust the Z axis, which is actually the height axis. You can see this as well by clicking here on this icon, which is the move icon, which enables the gizmo, which lets you click those axes as well. But I want to work very precisely, so I just enter here 1 and my cube is directly on the grid. Why 1? Because this is 2 meter and the origin point of this cube is in the middle. So if this is 2 meter, then the half would be 1, and so I rise the height to 1, and now the cube is directly standing on the 0 position. I close this now. Next. So what I want to do next, I want to change the origin, because it shouldn't be in the middle at all. I want the origin to be on the bottom center position. So there is one very important thing. I just have to do a right click, and there is the option Set Origin. Set Origin to 3D cursor. And now we have our 3D cursor and our gizmo on this position. And if I want to change now the position, I can directly slide on the grid, and this is and I really like this. So I press Ctrl Z for return, and the size is still 2 meter, and I need to change this. And for this I need another shortcut, which is the N key, and the N key activates my active tool properties. What I want to do is to click here on item. This opens the transform panel, and in the transform panel you can adjust your values precisely without doing this by hand, and so you can't work really precisely. Here you see the scale is 1, and the scale should always stay 1, because you need this value for everything, for modifiers, for scaling, for bevels, whatever. You need always a 1 value on the scaling position. If not, then I will show you this later. So we are currently in the transform panel. You basically don't have to call up this by N menu. This is just my way. You can as well enter here in the property shelf this little square icon, which shows you the object properties, and there you find the transform values as well. So you can use the M key for calling up this very quickly, or just working here in the object properties. I know that I just said that the value for the scale should always be 1 in the end, for sure, but you can adjust the scale here very easily. For example, this is 2 meter and we want this cube to be 1 meter, so this is way too big. So the thing what we need to do is just click and drag the value from the X to the Z position, then you get this enter option and I press 0.5 and now my cube is the half size, so 1 was the actual size and 0.5 is 50% of this, and so we get 1 meter. And this is a better option to start because then I can enter the values very easily. And now our value is not 1 anymore, and I want to go back that 1 meter is our starting position. So I need to apply scaling, and I do this by pressing Ctrl A, not Shift A, Ctrl A. Shift A is adding and a Ctrl A is apply. And I want to apply the scaling value. And now look at the scaling values. When I do this, apply scale, and they are switching back to 1. The size stay at this position, but the values are 1 again, and now everything is fine. So I have values of 1, 1, 1, and I have noted my values for the tank for this one, and it says that the X size, the X direction is 80 centimeter, then the epsilon value, so the broad side, is 30 centimeter, and the height is 40 centimeter. Okay, so I just enter this here like a percentage and just getting the correct values. For example, here is 80 centimeter and this is currently 1 meter, so I press 0.8 and getting 80 centimeter. Then here as well, 30 centimeter, 0.3, and I got this one, and the set position is 0.4, and this is my fish tank. So when I scroll inside there, this is my fish tank actually in the correct values. We are currently in object mode, so this is just for selecting different objects. If I have more than one object, then I can select different objects here and manipulate the transform, scale, rotation and whatever. And you see as well we have one object in the outliner which we can select here as well. But how can we adjust this little tank now? How can we modify this? By entering the edit mode, and the edit mode, you see we are currently in the object mode, and if we click this, then we get a list of all different modes. And we have object mode, edit mode, sculpt mode, vertex paint mode, weight paint mode, and texture paint mode. There are many of them, and we usually just need 2 of them, the object and the edit mode for modeling. If you want to sculpt, then for sure you need to enter this one, but with this very low geometry, I would advise you just go to enter mode, and you see that we have now this. These little dots are the vertices and these are the edges. The face or the surface within this edge and the vertices is called face. And we have here the vertex selection, the edge selection and the face selection. And when I just select or click one face now, then this one is selected. If I go to this one, then the edges are selected, or if I just click at this edge, just one edge is selected. The same is happening with the vertex. If I just select one vertex, then only this one is selected, and we are able, just for information, to enable the Gizmo again and changing this vertex here. Or if I just press here in the middle, then we can freely move it. And I want to check if my measurements are correctly, and I need to enter the overlays, and there we get as well a very long list of options. And we need just this one here, the measurement, and I want to know the edge length. So if I click this one here, then we're getting this. And this is what I am talking before. why is there always 1? So this is definitely longer than this side. Why there's 1 and 1? And the reason for this is my scaling value. We have here this, and I said it before, everything was 1, and then we applied. And then everything was again 1, even though we entered 0.5 before. So I need to apply scale again so that I get correct measurements, because the cube still thinks that this is a even-sided square. So I go back to object mode, press Ctrl A to call up the apply window and select scale. And when I would switch back to edit mode now, then we got correct measurements. So you see 0.8, 0.3 and 0.4 for the height. And this is the correct tank size so far. But when we look now at our reference again, then we see that we have the ground plate, we have the sides, and we have no cover face at all. Those plates are just single one. So we can put them off, but the top face is open, and there's this class thickness which gives you volume to the object, and we want to do this next. So we say that the top face should be removed. So I'm currently in edit mode and I want to switch to face selection mode and select this top face. And this top face should be removed now or deleted. For this, I just press the X key for deleting. And I don't want to delete the vertices, I don't want to delete the edges, I want to delete the face. And when I select this option, then the face is gone. And we have this little tank here, which is pretty good, but we don't have any volume here. This is just an edge which have 0 volume or 0 strength. So how do we get some strength to this, some volume? And the easiest way would be to just use a modifier. A modifier is a function which you add to an object, and you can always enable or disable this function, and the basic object stays at its basic shape. But when you enable the function, then it will transform or be modified. Yeah, you can find this modifier as well in the property shelf, and this is this little icon here which says modifier properties. So click it, and currently we get an empty list, but here is the function add modifier, and when we select this, then we get as well a very long list of many different kind of modifiers. I've already made some tutorials about some of them, so for example the array modifier, the bevel modifier, or boolean modifier, or as well the build modifier. But what we want to use today is the solidify modifier. And the solidify modifier gives our object a volume. And if I select this now, then you see it already. You have here a volume now. And there we have some different adjustment option. And for example, we have simple and complex, but basically you don't have to do anything here. The only thing which is important, the offset. So the offset of our faces should be to the inside. When I press here 1, then it will be to the outside, but -1 is totally fine. I want to have the class inside of my shape. And the second thing is, how thick is this? And I took the measurement of the thickness as well, and this is 6 millimeter. So this is currently 10 millimeter. This is a little bit too much. So when I press 0006, then this should be the correct thickness of our water tank. And actually this is already our base shape for the water tank. And as I told you before, you can always enable and disable this one. So for example, if you click at this little screen here, then you can enable or disable it. or just collapse it and unfold it again. So this is here the thing what you can do, or just remove it here as well. But I think this is absolutely fine. So I want to care about now the cover of this tank. So I just duplicate this object by pressing the shortcut Shift plus D and press Escape for reset the position, so that we don't move the duplicate anymore. But you see that this duplicate is exactly at the same position than it was before, but we see we have two cubes now here. This is our duplicate. And what I want to do now is to just take this one and move it somewhere here. And why I'm doing this? Because I want to keep this modifier, but just remove all the other sides so that we just have one ground plate. And I'm here in face selection mode and I'm selecting all these faces, press X and delete the faces. And now we have our bottom plate, and I want to use this plate for several things now. The first thing is I go to edit mode. And if this is very annoying for you to just going to this position and switching the mode, then I can give you as well the shortcut is tabulator, and with the tabulator you're switching edit object mode and you are very much faster than just going to this position here. And I'm now in edit mode, and there it doesn't matter if I scale or not, because the object always keeps these values. But if you change this, then we have some troubles. But in edit mode you can transform, scale and rotate, and this doesn't affect this scaling values at all. So we have two different scaling values. This one should stay 1, and this here is for sure adjustable. So even though this is a beginner tutorial, I want to work precisely. This is very much information for you if you're completely beginner. But I have to do this as I was asked. So I want to have this glass plate at the exact position of this line here, the inner part of this inner glass side here, so that we have some holding elements for the glass plates on the top part here. So how can I do this? We have different views, and this is currently the perspective view, but we can lock the views as well by pressing the shortcuts on the number pad. 1 is the front view, 3 is the side view, 7 is the top view. And I want to work here in the top view now, and we are currently now in the object mode, and I press tabulator to switch to the edit mode. And now I want to snap my bottom line here to the exact origin point here, so that my gizmo and the origin is at the same exactly at this position here. Okay, how can I do this? For this I need the snapping function, the snap function. Just let you snap to a specific measurement. For example, you can snap to the grid or to specific surfaces or vertices or edges, and I just want to enable the snapping function. The shortcut for this is Shift Tabulator. So with Shift Tabulator you can enable and disable this one. And we want to have this enabled, and this is the way how you snap to something. And currently increments is selected, and this is as well correct. So the origin point stays at this position because this is our object position, and everything what we do here in edit mode will not influence our origin, our basic scaling values. So, and if I just drag this now, you see this is not very smooth. We are snapping exactly to the grid, and I just place it here, and now our origin is at exact this position, and this is what I wanted to. For example, when I go back now to object mode, then we have our gizmo back here. When we go back to the edit mode, then we have always the gizmo on the position of our selection and at the center. And for example, when I press now the edge selection mode and I select this one, then the gizmo will jump just to this position. Or if I select the edge here, then it will be as well here, but when we select the face, it will be here. I want to bring this face now to the inner part of this. And for this, I go to object mode, and I will keep snapping, but will change the snap to selection. And I want to snap to the vertex here. Okay, when I just press this one here, then it is very smooth, but currently we are not snapping to anything because our mouse is not hovering any vertices so far. But if we enter a specific position, for example this one, you see the orange dot here, then we snap to this position. For example, I can snap to this, or to this, or to this, and this is the origin position where we want to have this. Okay, and now I need to change our basic scaling values again, but we will apply this later as well. So now I want to scale, and I will scale in object mode because, by the way, this is the scaling gizmo, and when I want to scale in object mode, then it will be as well here in the middle, and this is not where I want to scale. I want to scale along this origin point, so I need to go to object mode, and for sure we need to apply the scaling values later again. But I want to have this very much smaller. Okay, this is very hard to do. So this is the holding, this is a very thin glass line which is on the sides to hold the cover. And the length is as well too big, so I will just make it smaller, for example like this. So my fish tank don't have this holder here, I just will do this like I think it fits best. So if you have correct measurements, then I would do this as well with the correct measurements. Now I want to apply the scale so that that this getting as well correct values, and then I need to, when I look at this at the side view, I need to bring this 6 mm to the inside so that this is really on the inner part of our glass tank. So the first thing is I will apply this scaling values, so scale. And then I need to transform this. And when I press this button here, then we're getting the gizmo again. And I need to change the green axis. I need to transform my object to the green axis, to the epsilon axis. And this is as well this value here. And I need to transform this to 6 mm. So this is currently on a negative value. And it should be moving more to the 0 value. So you can do this by entering here plus 0.006, and this is calculating the correct value for you. The object moved to this position, and we are able to just place this now directly on the inner part of our aquarium, our fish tank. So if you want to adjust this size, this is very easily, because when we, for example, press scaling now, then we are just moving the object to this position here. So we can adjust this very easily. But for sure you need to apply scaling then as well. So basically we could duplicate this now as well and just place it as well to this position, to this class side here, but you don't have to do this. Why should I do the exact same thing on the left side when I have this already here? And now this is very useful if you apply the location as well, because then the origin will jump to the middle position, and then we are able to mirror our object to the other side. And this is very handy because we don't have to position this as well to the other side. Maybe you can duplicate this and rotate this on 180 degrees on the Z axis, and then this is the origin is as well on this side, and then you can place this as well and snap it on this position, and then move it or transform it, the location as well on the epsilon position to -0.006, and then you have it as well here, but you don't have to do it. Just press Ctrl A to apply the location. Then you see the gizmo and the origin is jumping to the 3D cursor, and now we are just able to go to modifier, add another modifier, and select the mirror modifier. And currently nothing will happen because we have selected the x-axis, and this is wrong. We want to mirror the epsilon. And now we have the same object on this position, and this is very cool because when I go to edit mode and then I select anything, for example this edge here, and I just adjust this, then the other side will change this as well. And this is very good. So if you duplicate this and then you bring it to the other side, then this is a duplicate and will not be an instance for this one. Basically this is more or less an instance, and every change I did here will influence as well this side. So this is a very good method to make your life easier. So okay, let's create the cover for this fish tank, and I will go to object mode and again duplicate this. Disable snapping function with shift tabulator, so I get a smooth movement again, and then I press the middle mouse button and move the mouse to the top direction so that I snapped to the Z axis, and even though I'm moving my mouse to the left and right, I always will slide along the Z axis. And I just place this somewhere here. Okay, now I have a duplicate of this one, and I don't need this object anymore. I just will remove this modifier and have only this one here. And what I will do next is I go to edit mode, enable snapping again, and just grab the epsilon axis and move this to this vertex so that this is fully covering our inner part here. But for sure this is a little bit too much. Basically in real life there have to be a small gap so that this is not blocking the sliding to the left and right. So I go to the face selection and select it, and now I show you some shortcuts for as well the transform, rotation and scale. And if you just want to work with shortcuts, then you have to press G, for example, for the movement. So this is the transform. G is transform. R is rotation. And scale is S. So don't ask me why G is the transform and not T. T is only for hide and unhide the toolbar, but G is transform, and S is scale, and R is rotation. Okay, I want to scale, and I want to just scale on the epsilon direction. When I scale now, then my whole object is scaling. But if I want to just scale in one direction, then I need to choose an axis, and I would choose the epsilon axis, which is the green one, and I press now epsilon to just scale in the epsilon direction. And this is what I wanted to, because we want to have here a little gap so that this is just lying above our holder. And this is basically all. And when I go to object mode again and to this property shelf, then we see that we have currently moved this to this value, but I bring this back to 0 and move this just to 0.006 to the top, so that this is lying directly on this one here. So this is what this is now directly on the holder, and then I go to edit mode, and my face is already selected, and press S for scaling again, and now the X axis, so I getting a smaller plate to this direction. Okay, and this is looking pretty good, so I like this size. And when I now enter this one, go again to this gizmo, to the transform gizmo, and then I slide this just to this direction. Okay, so I will create and duplicate again, escape for resetting the transform. Then I will add another 6mm. So we have 6, which was a value before, and now we add 6 to get 12, and we have this now in this position, and I will just drag this to this position here. So this is the cover of our fish tank. Basically, this will be slightly rotated later so that this is lying on the holder, but I think this is currently fine, and this is the fish tank. Maybe you think now, how can we watch through this? Because we need a glass material so that this is getting transparent. But I will not talk about shading on the glass material in this part, and I will hit this issue in my next video when I will start to getting the setup for the rendering. So far I will just do the modeling, and this is totally fine. And what is missing is the shelf surface, so where this water tank or this fish tank is standing on, and we want some walls so that we have a simulation of a room so we can produce our rendering. First, before I add any further objects, I will rename my outliner. So this cube, just double click it, and this is my fish tank. Okay, what is this one? These are the holders. Fish tank holder. And what is this? This is fish tank cover plate 1. And this is fish tank cover plate 2. So the outliner is clean now again, and I will add the desk surface. For this I will add a new mesh, and I want to add a plane, and this plane is as well 2 meter sized, and for sure you can adjust this as well, but I will just enter this and scale, and I will just scale to the epsilon direction so that we're getting this shelf here. Yeah, this is fine, and as well as X, so that this is standing on this surface here. Alright, my basic surface is done. I just apply now the scaling values, so scale here, okay, and now I want to bring some depth to it or some height, so I go again to the modifier section and add the Solidifier Modifier, and this is well pointing to the correct side, so the offset is nice, and the thickness shouldn't be 1 centimeter, it should be 4 centimeters, so something like this. Then the next thing is I will just duplicate this one, and this plate here should be our holder or stand, our side stands here. So what I want to do is just to place it somewhere here, and now I snap it to this position, and I just need to rotate this now. Press R to rotate this, and I want to rotate along the epsilon axis to 90 degrees. So this is now on this position, and now rotate this on set position and flip this to this side so that our origin is on the left position before it was in the right position. So I have to rotate it along the Z axis, and this should be now place somewhere here. Perfect. And now I go to edit mode, select this one and just move it with G and Z. And I will place it somewhere here. Okay, then disable snapping again and just move it slightly upwards like this, so that we have this little gap here. So this is really the standard of this shelf. Okay, and what we need as well is, I've forgotten this already, we need some bevels for the corners, because now currently this is very sharp corners and I want a bevel for this. So I go to modify again and bevel my corners, but this is way too thick. I need to collapse this one and need to make this like this probably, and increase the segments to 5 or 6 probably. And now I'm getting some nice corners which have this round shape, and I prefer this one than this one. Okay, so this is fine. So 001, so this should be about 1 millimeter, I guess. You can increase this probably to get bigger bevels, but this depends on you, what you feel good about. So I will do this here as well. I want a bevel, and this bevel should be about 002, I guess. Yes, and segments are 6, and this is fine. So we have nice shelf corners. And now it is time again to apply location and add another modifier which mirrors this to the other side, but we have some problems because currently this is mirroring this to the wrong side. Why is this? Because of this one. We have rotation issues, and this rotation should be applied as well. And when I press now apply rotation, then this will automatically jump to this position, and this is correct again. So I love this. So this little plane, this little tiny plane, have 3 modifiers, and actually is just this thin plane. This very non-volume plane. This is just 4 vertices, and with these modifiers we have created this shelf so far, more or less a shelf. And this is very, very nice. So I will just take this and bring this somewhere here. So I like this. Okay, this is the basic shelf for our fish tank. And what is missing? Actually, I'm missing the light source, the LED lamp, and the walls. And I will just name this now. I will take the shelf top, and this will shelf holder or stand. I'm not sure about this correct English word, but it's okay so far. So then I will create another plane for creating the wall and rotate this along the x-axis to 90 degrees. And I just move this somewhere to this position, I guess. This is fine. Then I will enter the edit mode and make a right click to subdivide it. So we have now splitted this into 2 parts, and this is what subdivide means. So when we subdivide, we split our face to more faces. We have currently now 3, and when I just select those 2, and then I'm able to just delete those faces. Actually, this was not the best idea. Probably I should take this, snap this to vertex and somewhere to this position, so the wall is now at this height as well. And when I take this now, then I'm able to add more faces by selecting those 2 faces and just extrude those faces to a specific direction, then we're creating more faces. For example, I just press E for extrude, and then I'm adding more geometry, and with the middle mouse button just one time clicked, then we are snapping to the epsilon axis, and this is only creating this rectangular shape, and I will just place it somewhere here at this position here. So this should be fine. What else do we want to create? I will keep this like this. This should be our wall and the floor and the walls structure. This should be fine so far. So I select it, rename it to the wall and floor, and just hide this because currently this is just disturbing my current view, and when I rotate it, then I will not see the fish tank at all. So I just hide it so far, and I will use this later. Okay, next I want to add the LED lamp, which should be on the top of this, and this is a little bit tricky. I'm talking about this slide lamp here, and this has a more specific shape, so it's not just an ordinary cube, so it's a little bit more than this. So when I'm going back to my folder, I have more photos about this, and there you see we have this long lamp here, which has these end pieces here, and they are very special because when you look at this, this is more or less a rectangle, but with this beveled shapes here. But this is just on the top side here, those two, and the bottom side is as well beveled, but not this big like this one. So we have two different kind of bevels, and we have on this side as well this carving face here. So this is not just a flat line here, so we need to create somehow this one. So I want to start with this one here, and we'll create this end piece, then this will be very simple afterwards. I don't think that I will model all of these tiny details there. Maybe I just solve this with the texture. This should be enough, but I want to create as well this one here and the cable as well, and for sure later the filter and the heating element there. So this will be really tough when I try to make this as understandable as possible. What will be next here will be a cube, way too big for sure. This is 2 meters again, and I will just make this very small, maybe about not 1 meter, maybe just 0.01, something like this. Oh, this is very tiny, but it's okay. I can work with this one. This is 1 centimeter now. When I check my values here, this is 1. So 1 centimeter, this is fine. When I am talking about the thickness, then this should be X 2.5 centimeter, yeah. And the height is as well 2 centimeters, so 0.5. Okay, and the length should be 11, so something like this. So this is actually the end piece block, and we need to modify this now. So I will just apply the scale now for this. And before I do any bevel, I want to add some edge loops. And those edge loops should be good for finding this corner here. So I take as well the measurement, and it is from this corner to this position 2 centimeter. So not at all 2.5 or something like this. So 2 centimeters from this position, and as well for sure at the other position as well. And I need to do this before I do the bevel. So how can I do this? When I go here to edit mode, then we have as well our issues, our measurements. If you don't want this, then just enable this here, but we can use this for sure every time. So what I need to do is I just select one corner. You don't have to select anything here, and just press Ctrl R for adding an edge loop. And this edge loop will be placed here. We see this with this yellow dotted line. And I just press one time a left click, and then you're able to move this edge loop. But I don't want this, and just press escape. And then it will be at the middle again. And this is what I wanted so far. Okay, so we have this middle position now. Basically, we are able to mirror this. I guess I will do this because this is completely mirrorable. So, okay, then I switch to face selection mode. Select all of this by pressing Alt plus left click. And with Shift left click, I add this face here and press X to delete this. And then I go again to object mode, go to modifier section and add a mirror modifier, which will mirror this to the epsilon direction. Well, perfect. So go to edit mode, and now I have to just adjust this side and everything will mirror to the other side. Okay, then I press X for this, for adding another edge loop, and pull this to the very last position here. Okay, and it should be really at this position, and just left click and you have two edge loops now at this position. Okay, and now I want to move this edge here to this direction, 2 centimeters. And I can't do this sadly here because we have this transform values already here. We need to transform this edge loop to the epsilon direction, and you have to do this with the end panels. And when you here, then you have exact the position of this, and I want to just add the value plus 0.02. Perfect. Okay, we have now this at this position. Now I'm able to do the bevel, and I will just do this by selecting this edge, which should be beveled, and for sure we are able to add a bevel modifier. But this bevel will influence the whole object, and I don't want this. So I just want to bevel this single edge here by pressing Ctrl B. So I will add this bevel here to this position by moving the mouse to the center and a little bit outer and make it smaller or bigger. So you can control this, and with the middle mouse button you can add segments. So you can smooth this if you want to, but we want to have this hard cutted bevel, and it should be probably something about this size here. So I will just place this like this. I haven't taken any measurements for this one, so I will just make this by eye. And I add here as well a small one. So something about this one should be okay. So, and I'm glad now that I have this line here, because now I am easily able to adjust this piece here. And when I just check this out, then this is maybe a little bit too much. So I will undo this. I will undo. This was too much. I will just do it like this. So I guess this is much better, because this area here should be a little bit bigger. So it was really too much, I guess. And what I will add now is really a bevel modifier, because to getting nice corners, nice round corners for the whole object. So the modifier is always for the whole object. And currently I selected the wrong modifier, so I need to select the bevel modifier for sure, and this should be 0.01 or more, I guess. Yes. And adding more segments, I will go with 5 maybe. Yeah, 5, it's okay. So we're getting now nice smooth edges, corners as well here. Alright, what should be next? I want to add here this part here now, and Okay, the fish tank is really disturbing my view. So I press the divide button on my keyboard. So I will just focus on my selected object and go to an isolated view. So when I press again the divide key, then everything is back. But with this divide key, then I just focus on this one and the rest is hidden so far. I think this should be a little bit smaller. It's really big so far. So the corners should be nice rounded shape, but not too much. Okay, basically I need to push this inside so that we're getting this tiny step here. This is currently too much. So when I check out my reference, then this is not 100% a rectangle step. So we just are able to add another edge loop and pull this edge inside of here. So when I just press Ctrl R to make this, probably I shouldn't snap it currently, so I just disable this and pull it somewhere here. I think this is totally fine. And just select this edge here and this one and press G and Z. And now I'm pulling those two faces somewhere to the top, and then we're getting this shape here, and this looks already good. I like this. We have here as well tiny holes, but I will not care about this so far, so I want to just make this bigger. This should be really this long lamp here. So okay, how do I do this? I want to select all my faces. You are able to just select your faces with shift and left click, so you're adding more faces to your selection, but you're as well able to just call up a brush or some kind of circle selection and with left click and keep left click clicked and then move your mouse, then you select more and more faces. Then you can create your selection very much faster. And I do this by pressing the C key, and then I getting this circle selection, and I can change the radius with the middle mouse button, so can it make it more bigger or smaller. And I just want to select those three faces, and I want to make a smaller version of this somewhere here. So I need to extrude this in any way, but it should be not pushed out anywhere. So it should be just a more geometry inside of this. How can I do this? So it's not the E key to extrude this and escape and then scale. This would be probably possible, but it looks not that good. So I will just return this 2 times, sorry, because then we just have the extrude still here, the 0 position. But I just press the I key to inverse my selection. And currently we have the same gap for all faces, but at this position this is not good enough. I currently enabled the Inset Faces function, so this is the correct word. And what I really need to do is to disable boundary, because when I do this, then this will happen, because this is actually the AND side, and then this side will not be insetted. So basically, you know, this is an open mesh, this is not an filled one, and this is the reason for the boundary. When there is this corner, then the edge flow will not interrupt this here, because it is an open mesh, and I hope you understand what I want to say to you. Okay, and there you are still able to adjust this value here. For example, yeah, it should be just like this, probably. Looks good. And now this can be extruded just to any direction, and this looks actually very good, I guess. And what we need to do is to bring this to the middle position here. So how to do this? We need to snap First thing is I want to delete those faces, because when I bring them to the middle position, then we just entered the middle here, but it is 2 times long, so I will be able to just mirror this again to the other side, and I need to modify the origin for this. So I go to object mode again, and now I press right click, set origin, and bring the origin to 3D cursor. And when I do this, then this will not influence our mirror modifier here, because it was already at the 0x direction, so this is still fine. But we're able to call the mirror modifier again up and just add the x-axis, and then we have this as well to this side. So we have now enabled 2 axes, and we have totally control what we wanna do here. And when I just go to edit mode, select everything, and probably I just want to move this, then this will change my whole mirror modifier. This is very cool. Okay, what we want to do, or what we need to do now, is I disable the measurements for now, because they are a little bit annoying right now. When I want to deselect anything, then I have the possibility just shift left click on the face again to deselect it, or just take the C key to call up the circle selection again, and with the middle mouse button you remove a selection. But you are able to select all with the A key and deselect all by pressing A 2 times. So now everything is deselected, and now I can again select those faces here, and I will remove them, because in the end there will be a merged here in the middle, and there shouldn't be those faces. When you extrude, then all these faces will be created, and we don't need this face and this face here as well. This is as well unnecessary, we don't need this. And I only need this outer ring here. And this ring should be now on X0 position. So I go here to this one and just enter 0. And we have this here now. And this looks really good. And we have here the light phase, which will produce our light for the fish tank later. And this will be our light itself, the handle. And now I go back with the white button on my number pad and bring back all elements, and now look at this. This looks really good so far, and I like it. And I think this will be already the end for this tutorial, and I will continue with the glass shader, with the light setup, and produce our first rendering in the next part. I know that I have not finished my light so far. There's for sure, we need some handles on the outer position here. We need our light button to put the light on and off, and we need some cables as well. But I will continue in another part with this one, and I think this is totally fine. This is very much information for the beginning. If you really start with Blender, then this was very much of information, with all the shortcuts, with all the functionalities, and with all the modifiers, and the issues with the scaling and the ply scale and all of this. So this was very nice. I'm looking forward to the next episode, when I start to add shaders, which will be again very much information, because there's so much to know, and I'm really looking forward when I see you in the next episode. So thank you very much for watching this episode, and see you again. Cheers.